Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I am Ahmadullah Shah, Assistant Professor, Institute of Business Studies. Today, the topic of our lecture is Hypothesis Development, lecture number 2, and our overall lecture number is 12. In last lecture, we have discussed the theory of hypothesis development. In this lecture, we will be discussing how practically we can develop different types of hypotheses. Now, first of all, theoretical framework. In today's lecture, we will briefly discuss theoretical framework, or we will summarize theoretical framework, and then we'll discuss formulating different types of hypotheses, and then hypothesis for our independent variable, and then hypothesis for our mediating variable or mediator, and finally how we can develop hypothesis for our moderator variable. But before going to start our lecture, let us briefly discuss our previous lecture. In previous lecture, we discussed about different types of hypothesis development. We discussed directional hypothesis, which gave us a clue or which gave us a direction regarding the relationship between our independent and dependent variable. While in contrast, in non-directional hypothesis, which does not give us any clue or direction between independent and dependent variables. Then we have also discussed null and alternate hypothesis. In null hypothesis, we have discussed that it states that there is no relationship between independent and dependent variable, while alternate hypothesis is the opposite of null hypothesis, and it states that there is a relationship between independent and dependent variable. In today's lecture, we have different types of theoretical framework. First of all, we'll briefly discuss general theoretical framework, or we have developed a general theoretical framework for our general understanding. Now, for any kind of theory or for any kind of theoretical framework, this type of theoretical framework may be applied. Initially, on the very left hand side, we have independent variable. In any theoretical framework, on the left hand side we will be having our independent variable, while on the very right hand side we will be having our dependent variables, and in between our independent and dependent variable will be having our mediating variable or mediator variable, or sometimes, or it is also called intervening variable as well. And then we have a moderating variable, which actually modifies the relationship between our independent and dependent variables. Now, this is a general theoretical framework which states that, or which assume that we have independent variables which affect our dependent variable through mediating variables, and it also states that this relationship is modified by a moderator, which is usually denoted by Z. Now, how we can develop hypothesis if we have this kind of theoretical framework? One thing we have to remember that theoretical framework is developed on the basis of theory. Theoretical framework is developed on the basis of theory or a number of research paper or literature. So, when we develop a theoretical framework, so there should be a logic in it, or we should answer two things: that how this relationship is developed, or how certain phenomena or how certain variables are related with each other. And secondly, we have to answer why these phenomena are associated with each other. That is something called theory. So to understand this phenomena, we have to answer two questions. That is, how certain phenomena or how certain variables are related with each other, and secondly, why we believe that these variables are related with each other. So when we answer these questions, we can develop hypothesis. First of all, our hypothesis number one could be there is a direct relationship between variable A and variable B. Secondly, our mediating variable hypothesis could be C mediates between variable A and variable B. Now, our third hypothesis could be moderator M, or M moderates the relationship between variable A and variable B. Now, here we have to recall our lecture number 10, which was related to different types of variable. If you people remember, mediator was something in which we have discussed that actually it is the process variable that mediates the relationship between independent and dependent variable. While in our moderating variable, or our discussion regarding moderating variable was that it is a variable that modifies the actual relationship between independent and dependent variable. Now, in light of this discussion, or in light of this definition, we have developed these hypotheses. For example, our hypothesis number 2, C mediates between A and B. Similarly, we have developed hypothesis number 3, that is M moderates the relationship between A and B. Now, this was all about our general theoretical framework, and we have also developed general hypotheses on the basis of our assumptions. Now we have, if we have a specific theoretical framework, if we have a well-defined theory, or if we have a well-defined model, how we can develop a model on the basis of it. As earlier discussed, that for a theoretical framework, we should have two things, that is a model and a theory. A model basically tells us how certain variables, now certain variable here means organization justice dimension. Now keep one thing in mind, that organization justice dimension have 4 dimensions, that is distributive justice, procedural justice, interpersonal justice, and informational justice. Now these 4 variables, that is our independent variable, actually affect our dependent variable, that is our organization commitment. Now this is a theory, this is a well-developed model. Organization justice dimensions affect organization commitment. Now later on, we explore our literature, or after critical review of literature, we came to know that organization justice dimension affect organization commitment through the mediating mechanism of job satisfaction. This means that there is no direct relationship between organization justice dimension and organization commitment. Rather, job satisfaction mediates between organization justice dimension and organization commitment. Secondly, if we introduce a moderating variable, if we introduce yet another variable, that is organization size, that the relationship between organization, just as dimension, and organization could also be affected on the basis of organization size. It means that in large organization commitment of employee may be very high as compared to those organizations which have less number of employees or whose size is very low. Now, you people might know, in different types of organization, we may have large organization, we may have medium size organization, and we may have small organization. Small organization, medium organization, and large organization. Now, we can say theory does suggest that large organization have better organization commitment than small organization. Now, this is something that theory suggests, that in large organization, people have better organization commitment than medium, and then medium organization have better organization commitment than small organization. So this theoretical model is based on theory. This theoretical framework is based on theory. Now, when we have this kind of theoretical framework, how we can develop different type of hypotheses. Now, coming toward development of hypothesis. Now, remember our discussion regarding independent and dependent variables, where we state that organization justice dimension have direct relationship with organization commitment. Now, on the basis of this theoretical framework, we have already discussed in our last slide. So, we may develop our hypothesis number 1, that organization justice dimension have direct relationship with organization commitment. We may also assume that job satisfaction mediates between organization justice dimension and organization commitment. And we may also assume that organization size moderates the relationship between organization justice dimension and organization commitment. Remember that our all three assumptions are our all three hypotheses. Hypothesis number 1, hypothesis number 2, and hypothesis number 3 are on the basis of theory. Now, when we have discussed all these theoretical framework, or we have developed different types of hypotheses for our moderating variable, for our mediating variable, and for our independent variable. Now we can summarize our today lecture. First of all, for development of hypothesis, we need a theoretical framework which must have two things, that is a model and a theory. Secondly, for formulating hypothesis, you need to understand different kinds of variables, which may include your independent variable, or which is also known as explanatory variable. For example, in our example, we have used different organization justice dimensions, which could be used our independent variable, which affect our dependent variable, that was our organization commitment. Next, we have our mediator or mediating variable. So for development of hypothesis, we also need to understand how mediator or how mediating variables or how intervening variable is working, or how it processes. Finally, we should also understand, or we should have a detailed understanding regarding our moderating variable. If we understand these concepts, that is theoretical framework, then on the basis of theoretical framework, we may formulate or we may develop a number of hypotheses regarding our independent variables. Then we may also develop our hypothesis regarding mediating variable. We may also develop hypotheses regarding moderating variable. Now, one thing is very important to understand, that is, in a single theoretical framework, we may have more than one mediator. We may have more than two mediators. We may have three mediators as well. Similarly, we may have two or more than two moderators. In the similar pattern, we may have a number of independent variables. For example, in our case, in today's specified theoretical model, we have 4 independent variables. We have used research method for business, a skill building approach by Omar Sekaran and Roger Bogi. If you people have any question regarding today's lecture, you people ask now. Thank you so much for your attention.